When the Spanish got here, it was not appropriate to be Indian. Like when my mom went to school and my grandparents went to school, you weren't allowed to speak Indian. At home, my granddad and grandmother would speak Indian to the kids, my aunts and uncles and my mom, and they would in turn speak Spanish or English back to them. So that's kind of how they washed out the language. There are some wax cylinders at the Smithsonian that they have of one of the ancestors speaking our language, but that was pretty much the last that was a fluent speaker of the language. I'd say that the gatherings we would have or the cultural events we would have tapered off because unfortunately they can't separate, some of the families can't separate the federal recognition process with the family process. So some are like, well, we don't talk to them anymore, or we don't see them anymore. So a lot of the different cultural events we would normally have as a big group are now broken into 3 different groups, having different times of the year. We do have the summer and winter solstice here at the Blas, just in the field to our south here, where we have the summer and winter solstice ceremonies, stuff like that, gathering. We have gatherings for reunions where some of the different groups will come, some don't. Like I said, it's become a real point of contention. Would like to, I know Mingo and Matt and some of the other guys have talked about trying to start a piñón game here in the field. Try to get that going, to try to get some of the youth, the younger kids interested in it, regardless of particular group, just to get them involved. Being, like I said, being my name, Hawk Shadow, I've always been more interested in the birds of prey, raptors, stuff like that. And at one point, I did find a red-tailed hawk that I wanted to preserve to get different items for different uses, for regalia, ceremonies, gifts for different family members, stuff like that. This is actually a lance that my uncle, archaeologist, actually found in a cave here back up in the Mission Viejo area. What the Native Americans would do is after a battle, or if they found a sword, or usually the cavalry swords, depending on which one it was, what they would do is they would take the scabbard off, the hilt off, because it had a thin metal shaft that they would put into the hilt. Then they would do is they would get a long straight pole, split it down, insert the hilt piece into the spear, and then lash it together, and then all of a sudden you have a spear, or a sword that's become a spear, something easier to throw, longer distance, depending on what animal you're going after or person. Drawing these for different items. This would be more for, like, say, the top of a staff, a coup staff. I'm not sure if anybody mentioned those. Some of the warriors wouldn't, if they went into battle, wouldn't use a spear. They would use what's called a coup staff. If they were very prestigious warriors, if they would meet in battle and didn't have that staff with them, they would stop. They would hold off the battle until they went to go get it, because it had preceded, the name of that coup staff had preceded them. And that's how they would battle, with the staff instead of actual weaponry, knives, bows, spears. A lot of the coastal tribes, the Tongva, us, would use shells from the coastline as currency. Because the inland tribes didn't have access to these types of shells. They had access to obsidian, other types of shells that we didn't have access to. So in a barter system, we would use them as currency. But yeah, these are what we used for jewelry, earrings, currency. But they would gather reeds from the creeks here, all the different creeks, bundle them together into long pieces, long round cylinders, and then get those pieces, those cylinders, and then tie them all together to make a boat, a long canoe. We would use local tar from the area to tar the bottoms of them. But yeah, us, the Tongva, they actually have a very large collection, I believe, of boats up there that they would use. And they actually do, I think they do an excursion every year to Catalina, or not Catalina, but the Channel Islands. But yeah, we would run fishing all along the coastline, diving for abalone, diving for these.